Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs Live. Boy, is it good to be back on the air. And believe me, I'm feeling a whole lot better. And before I begin here with this quick little park landscape design review, I just want to take a moment to thank you for your patience with me. There's nothing worse than interrupting the schedule, and I really felt badly about not being able to do so over the last couple of days. For some other reason, my youth got in the way and just could not even bend over, for example. That's horrible, but nonetheless, that's another matter altogether. The point today is I'm really pleased you're with me. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining with me, and I thought it'd be kind of a nice little thing to turn into a little bit of a table here. The last program we put together was a series of just speed form and line weight studies. I think that's an important process as well, but I think one of the things that I've really thoroughly enjoyed over the course of my career in working with this creative stuff is that it just goes all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of diversity in it. There's a lot of areas of interest. There's an awful lot of places where you really begin to take advantage of some of the things that you begin to experience, especially working with people. And I think that's the reason I brought this subject up today. I think this whole idea about landscape design and the project I'm going to show you here is something I've worked on some time ago, and it's just been a really, really interesting set of circumstances. Well, before I begin, I'll preface it by saying this. This whole series of sketches this is the first pass, so to speak. I probably went through about maybe 300 to 400, close to pretty 400 sketches, just working with a team of individuals that were committed, making decisions for a community, and very sensitive stuff. So I think the thing I want to get across in this process today, the lesson plan, if there's any lesson at all in this, is how vital it is to really pay attention to people's insights, what they can tell you, what you can learn from them, and how they can apply certain things that you're not aware of. And very sensitive, yes. Do we like to be able to control some things? Yeah, sort of in a way. But I'm more concerned about the fact that when I work with individuals, I'm really tuned into what their needs are. After all, I don't matter. They do. And I think that one of the things I really brought this project together to look at, for us to look at, was it comes down to two very dynamic elements. Number one, the creative process from an individual. And secondly, the creative return of that individual to the process and the people you work with. So it's a two-way street. And I think the more you listen to certain things about insights, having another set of eyes or another set of ears or another voice, really begins to open up the corridors of creativity, and you become a better person as a result of it. So let's go back into this thing here. Too much youth. Yeah, youth overdose. Don't I wish if that be the case. But let me just... I'm going to go through just page by page here, and I'll try not to bore you here. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to do so. But I want to just go through some review things about some of the thinking process behind going into the sketches. It's not just a simple matter of sitting down and beginning to create, I'll do this and I'll do that. I think these sketches were a result, let me just preface it again. These sketches were sight unseen. I was just given a notice about, hey, we're doing a certain park theme concept that might be involved a certain amount of area. It's dealing with indigenous peoples, for example, Native American tribes. Not a lot of hardware was given to me as far as outline and concerns are concerned, or programs or stipulations. It must be this, and this. I just was given a free ticket to just start being creative with this thing. So this first page here, these are a series of sketches that take very, very quick little thumbnail studies on 8.5 by 11. These are just pencil sketches, but I'm looking at plan views and elevations. Again, plan view back to elevations. And notice the first pass I looked at here was getting into things like how am I going to break up the shape? It's on a riverfront, which is out to the north in this case, and there's a major boulevard going through the process here. There's another major boulevard here, and there's a residential street that goes through the area. And if you notice some of these modules, for example, let's look at this sketch, for example. These sketches, this little study here, they did mention in the overview of the concept or the creation of the park that they wanted to pay tribute to 7 different tribes or 7 different groups of individuals in this region of the country. So I went ahead and started looking at these modules, for example. There's a welcoming center, for example, in the middle of the module. An overview platform on the river. Then I went back in and began to look at 7 different tribes or different areas of housings or modules where people could come in and visit and begin to look at the history of the park itself. A little elevation study of the same thing, quite different here. This is more of an elevation over here, looking at in plan view. And I go back to an elevation where there's some structures on it, like a welcoming center, maybe a tribute area, a gift shop of some sort, lighting, and landscaping. So there's a lot of notes all over the thing. And I think that's the thing I want to really stress too. Sometimes we get into a habit of being so formal in industrial design. I mean, I'll be very candid with you. I'm not one of those purists in terms of, well, you have to have a certain look, or it has to be very clean, I'm much more tuned into the variety of being able to be from one end to the other. For example, it might be a series of conceptual sketches that look very fine art related. Some very, very tuned in, some very realistic, some very, very crisp. I just move all the time. I just don't want to get locked into any given look. And I also change paper textures. If you see me working for example, tone papers and newsprints, bond papers, it doesn't matter to me. I just like to keep things moving because it changes the skill set and it keeps a lot of lucidity involved in the process. So that's what you'll see in some of these sketches. They're just very spontaneous. These pages, probably per sketch or per page, about maybe no more than 5 to 6 minutes, probably 8 at the most. Just less striking down ideas. So there's the first sketch out of here. Let's do this. There's one. I'll just kind of leaf through them as I go here. So there's one. Let's get these out of the way. Then a second sketch. We said open up the perspective. And you've heard about things, for example, we do in the past, or I've talked about this in the past, that you begin to set up a platform. Then you build a platform out. You draw through the platform. You begin to let the platform set the scenario for you. And I think that's really critical. This platform here is a park space. It's bordered by a street and a residential area. And also there's a river to the north of it. So that's a platform to work with in terms of scale. And I think, if I remember serves it correctly, this thing was about 1,100 feet in length and about at its widest point, about 550 feet. So there's a lot of work, a lot of information to work with. And again, notice this sketch here in perspective begins to look at the bridgeway across the river, a little welcoming center, for example, an overview here. And then again, just a little bit of an archway from the walkthrough. And again, this is very sculpted looking forms, getting into plantings and a tributary. Maybe they're like feathers of some sort of a sculptural piece that would become a keynote part of the whole vision. A lot of trees, a lot of green space, a lot of walking area. For residential and for visitors and the like. And again, 2 variations on theme down here in plan view, for example. Again, same process. The dark area here is almost like the walking path of the sidewalk system going through the actual space. Same thing here. We have these 2 parabolic curves that go through the shape itself, and this becomes all planting. That becomes all sidewalk and walkway. And again, notice that the numerical patterns, for example, 1 through 7, these modules along the way and through the site plan itself become locations where these tribes could be maybe put up an area about their history, about their culture, and what they represented in the area. And again, notice a lot of notes going on in here, just thinking through the process and not being so concerned about being so delicate with it, but just being very, very informative and extremely lucid and just devil-may-care. Another little study here. Then I got back into things, looking at some of the symbols, for example, in the culture, what they might look like too in terms of begin to apply. For example, each one of these symbols like freedom, harmony, great spirit, sun, another variation on sun, and hope, for example. These little symbols were all part of their culture, no matter what the tribe was. Just interesting how it all goes together. And Shadow, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great comment to make. These sketches were done sight unseen, but behind the scenes, I was not given any ground rules in terms of do this, this, and this, and this. I just kind of flew into it and said, here we go, wide open. But throughout the process, an awful lot of research going into documents, looking at visuals and looking at videos and certain things about certain parts of the country and where they came from and what their process was into their culture. So much of it. And then that research here, for example, every one of these sketches has a research platform to it. But again, from these areas, looking at some of these things, for example, going into, notice this little theme here came off of the freedom concept. Again, the 7 modules of the 7 tribes. This became a parabolic curve, for example, again, using the same basic theme. Again, notice an information center, and then the different modules or the different tribes clustered around the parkway. Same process here. Information center around the modules. And again, a little elevation study down here to let them see what the scale of this thing is. Like an information center, welcome center, for example, Hogan areas, for example. Hogan was like one of their dwellings that they would work with, in addition to teepees and other systems they would dwell in. That was part of it as well. So there's another series of thumbnail sketches. Then I went back into the housing area here, for example, in just the 4th study. Again, a little perspective overview sketch of what this park site might look like with an overview on the river. And this is called a hogan. It's a very long hut that they lived in, for example, in some tribes. So I thought, well, maybe it'd be kind of nice in a case like this to put something all under one roof where you walk in. Yeah, you've got the modules again with the tribes around it, but as some sort of welcome center or an information corridor here that visitors could walk through and begin to see how it all begins to put together, what they represent again, what their timeline was, what they left behind, what their culture was all about, where their dwellings were in certain parts of the country and so forth. And again, here's a little bit of detail. This is turning this shape around a little bit, looking at it from the riverside, and then into the Hogan itself, the entry area, and then out of it again into this very large overview deck on the riverfront, so people can come out and look up and down the river and where it was located. And again, this is a very central, theme-based, horizontal, long corridor Hogan that encapsulates all the information of the tribes involved in the process here and working with the system. And I want to just stop here for a moment and let you know that when putting these sketches together, when I submitted them to the group for review, they were overwhelmed. And don't misunderstand that comment. They were, oh, gee, isn't that cool? That's not what I mean. What I meant by that was they were just taken back by the fact that without giving me a lot of information about do this and do not do this, try this and try that, I just went right out there and just started creating some things here. And I think that's the thing I'll use this term very loosely. That's what my signature is. I don't play around. I just get right at it here, go right to the tooth and nail it, and I just create and go and go and go. And to me, the process of being creative is inexhaustible. I still am learning. I still love to be able to take chances, go out there on a limb and say, oh, what if this works? What if it doesn't work? Well, if it doesn't work, you've learned something. So all I have to say that when I submitted these sketches, by the way, this is the first phase of, I might try a little bit today to review some of these. But when I submitted, I'm going to go through, I'll select maybe the first 50. I'll go maybe the first 25 sketches today, depending on what the time factor does. Go through some of these to look at them, then maybe pick up part 2 to show you the rest of the process. I will let you know, too, that once this first pass went through, they selected some things, and I went back into some colored pieces. I don't know if I've got copies of that available or not. I've got them digitally, but if I can get them transferred, I'll show you some of those sketches as well as time moves on here. But again, from the first series of studies into the Hogan residence, for example, there were little huts, for example, like this, long Hogans, different ways of structurally putting the process together, and dwelling areas. And again, putting those pieces into a site plan. Again, notice really playing up the theme about these tribes. The 7 different tribes or locations or cultures that are involved in this whole scenario. Again, walk past to them into this very large longhouse or Hogan welcome area, and then back into again this very the very unique Riverview overlook, and then some parking areas and a main entrance into the walkway around to the Hogan to get into this site here. So move on here. Again, same process again. Go back to some of the symbols in the plan view from the cultural symbols, and putting that into place along with a couple of little dwelling areas here, walking past, and then these designated numbers or the numeral areas begin to tell us, for example, like plantings, natural plantings, and environmental pieces that they dealt with. Then a little signature sculpture here, for example. Maybe it's in the center of the area here that might be located there, tribute sculpture here. Just a cluster of feathers to kind of simulate what it is. Yeah, thanks very much. It's a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Chip. It's a real treat for me, and I think those of you who know me and kind of listen to my programs and streams from session to session, I move about quite a bit. I'm not really locked into doing one thing. So it all comes together with being creative and lucid and being open to conversation and listen to people like yourself, Chip. How many times have you been involved in Shadow as well in my streaming system? You made a comment about, hey, try this or try that. Then I just take that on and adapt to it. I think that's the thing. It's just amazing how it all comes together in terms of what can happen when you allow yourself to be really influenced by great people and great leadership. And your guys are especially a part of that whole passage. So thank you for your comments. And yeah, there's a lot of research, no question. But again, I want to really stress, and I want to be very extremely careful how this is stated and how it's received. Yeah, there's a lot of research. But there's a lot of, from that research, hey, it looks like this. That's where we come in. That's where we start to put the image together and we put the vision together. That's the great thing about the whole process. You can research until the cows come home. But if you're not going to put it into practice or incite someone else to be excited about it, then it's just, it's of no effect. So I'm being very careful here to draw a fine line. Yes, research is important. Everything I do has a research base. But from that research, what are you learning? What have you adapted to? What are you sending out there that says, man, this is like spitting on the table, man. This is right, awesomely cool. I'm going to rip your face off with this. This is neat stuff. So that's the difference. And I think that's what these sketches begin to reflect. So let me move along here. Again, variations on theme. Then I went into some things like symbolics, for example, looking at sculptural bases. Maybe it's little things like eagles and putting them up on platform. These little designated platters here would tell they're maybe copper-based or some sort of a stamping piece that would let the individuals know that each tribe is represented with this, and it's a hub area where it comes in. For example, on the entryway, you come in and you see the hub, and you walk through these areas that are all interesting cultural pieces. And then it tells a story, but it's a welcome center off the one side here. In the plan view again, and then again looking at these whole idea of maybe it's a sculptural piece like an eagle. So let me move along here very quickly. Then getting into dwellings again, back to teepees. And some of the things you can do, very abstract approach to this, for example, taking a teepee and just putting a bit of lean to it. Maybe this is not wood, maybe it's fiberglass or it's illuminated rod of some sort. I made that presentation. I made that comment to them in the committee piece. This is not your mother's teepee. It's a really cool looking thing. For example, it could be fiberglass, it could be illuminated, it could be all light emitting diodes, and at night it glows and you can see it from the riverfront. So that's all part of it all. So putting it again with that monumental piece here, the teepee is a tribute, and then around it there are 7 monuments to the tribe itself and how they all come together. Looking at how to begin to apply. The 2 key things in this whole thing, it had to be peaceful. In my opinion, it had to be restful, and above all else, I think the most important thing about landscape design, or things that are going to be left for cultures in time to come, is it's got to be timeless. It can't be dated. You can't do a 2x4 and expect it to live. It's going to rot little by little by little. But if you do things with that 2x4, that flatter it, form it, shape it, and give it some substance or personality, you're on your way. So again, here is a little plan view study in that site area, the designated area where that teepee would fall. Entry area, for example, here and here, coming into that whole round, which might look like this. Then we come back in and put the pieces together. Let's move along here. Same process, going a little bit of an overview. Pardon me, let me get this in place here. Let me stop here for a moment, gang. Is this making sense? Hopefully helpful to you. I mean, it's a bit of a change or departure, but I think it's really a good departure because it tells a story about the thinking process. And I think that's something I don't do an awful lot of, and it's a shame on me. I should take more time to do that because to me it's a very intriguing and helpful and necessary part of the process. Tell your story. Write your chapter page by page. Hey, very good. Thanks, Chip. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's just worthwhile to kind of pull back a little bit and show you projects I've worked on or I'm going to be working on so you can see how it all begins to relate. So this is storytelling time, and thank you for your patience. The thinking process and research gathering, I think, is the most great. Yeah, it is. You're right, Shadow. It definitely is. So from those teepee studies, the last the page I just showed you, we went from there into maybe an overview again, walkway, central area for the tribute. Then I began to look at what about combination of materials. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's a teepee, a little walking escape into it, and then into these hogans. And then these hogans, like a partial cut, like 2-split system. And what happens is really cool. It's just neat how all of a sudden, let's see, I've probably got a note here. It's iteration over iteration until you no longer. Yeah, that's right, Chip. That's an excellent point. Iteration after it, just go, and all of a sudden you run out of time, and you have enough time. You can create time too. So, great point, Chip. Thank you. Let's do this. Again, the tribute, and then again, this little theme here was a kind of a walkway through it, where each tribute or each tribe would have a certain shield or a certain area in the Hogan area. So I'm trying to go back to a little piece of their residential system, into the history of a cultural piece, tribute, sculptural piece, and into a historical thing as well. So there's number 9. And just kind of go along here. Get my hands to work will be great. So there's a now I went back, and again, here's a little bit more of an elaboration, what it might look like with a tribute feather system out here. garden spaces, and walking through these hogans or these dwelling areas. I mean, this is stuff. And let me just stop here for a moment here, gang. And here's again an overview looking at it from the north end to the south of where these guys would be located, and the entry would be here into the hogan and then through the areas of all the cultural stuff they wanted to highlight. But let me just say this as a quick segue. And I'm trying to find the right way to express it, because I don't want to be misunderstood. To me, drawing is like writing music. It's not natural. It's never been natural for me. It's a lot of hard work, as you guys know. Both the Shadow and Chip, whomever else listens to this stream, or to me pontificate about certain things. It's never easy, but there's something about drawing that just becomes liberating. And these sketches, I think, when I lay down a sketch, my number one objective is to excite somebody else about what their vision is. Not my vision, but what their vision is. That's a real strong hinge point. And again, I hope I can say this in a proper spirit. I hope it's received in a proper spirit. I like to think of my sketches as hopefully as being dynamic, being insightful, being exciting, because that's how I feel about the process. That's how I feel about being involved in this stuff. No matter what the design process is, no matter if it's car, product, architecture, landscape design, park design, no matter what it is, it could be big to small. My enthusiasm in my drawings, I hope my drawings come across as being enthusiastic, that I care about what I do, and I care about how you see what I do. So let's see, it's iteration 2, you no longer have enough time. Yep, Chip is a hard question. You come up with some awesome cars with 3 or 4 strokes. Yeah, well, again, Chip, that's very kind of me to say so, but you know full well, more so than I do, that 3 to 4 lines, it's practice, practice, practice. I think the old line was, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. You can't avoid that. Some of the great pros I work with, like yourself and others, they've always told me it ought to be natural. It ought to happen just like that, and it should not be forced. And I think that's the key thing. It can't be forced. It should be sight enthusiasm. So here's another study, a little bit of an overview here. And let's kind of go down the line here again. Back to some very simple, plain. And then notice we're breaking. One of the nice things about, again, sorry for switching gears here. One of the nice things about this whole project was, and then no matter what I deal with, is look, you've got a certain restricted area. You've got a confinement to work with. You've got a boulevard, a residential street, and a boulevard. You have a river, and you've got a green space. Now, that's pretty restrictive. That's an extremely tight envelope to work in. But here's a good line, I think, to work with here. The greater the restriction, the greater the freedom. Anybody can design a Ferrari. I mean, anybody can do something that's 2 feet tall, 6 feet wide, goes 1,000 miles an hour. But give me somebody who can design a world-class sedan that looks like a Ferrari. That's design. And that's restriction. And I think that's the thing I'm referring to here in each one of these sketches. It's in a highly restricted area. You can't go all over and create something completely new. Hey, Tom T. Williams, JD, Trevor here. And I just wanted to come in and say hello. Hey, good, Trevor, good to have you on board, man. Thank you for joining us. So I think that the whole idea here is to take that restricted area that you're dealing with, it's a very confined area, and begin to just modulate it and begin to break it up like a mathematical problem and create all these neat. How many variations are there in a case like that? Well, and especially in a tight space like this. My answer to that question is this. Very simple. It's infinite. It depends on how you see it. It depends on how you translate it. It depends on what takes place in the mind-stopping area. I say, boy, you don't do it. Some people get paralyzed by being restrictive. To me, it's exciting because the greater the restriction, that means I can kind of cheat the envelope of it and really begin to look in and really look into some things that are unique. So a little bit of change of pace and a variation, a very long tribute. Again, a walkway. It's more of a cantilever. Notice this is all river and through here. This is all cantilever. Again, another site plan study from where we are here. There she is. There she bows. Just there you go, over here. Now, again, a little plan view study. Again, notice the platform change. The idea of getting a little more scope or sweetness into the perspective itself to tell the story. And again, back to plan view, a variation 1 with a very bell tower of some sort. It's a little more common. And these areas here are going back to the modules, for example, of the 7 tribes to work with it again here. That's kind of neat. So that's another variation in theme. Another look, these little crescent areas again are tribute areas for the tribes or the individuals in the culture. And again, just looking at how do we begin to take these individuals who made such an historical impact in their community and give them a tribute that begins to really look like it belongs and it's necessary and it becomes timeless. So let's move along here. Switch gears again. Went back to themes here. Went back into maybe some really big, huge sculptural pieces like wings, for example. This would be a great logo for Bentley, wouldn't it? I think I'm gonna steal that for Bentley. That's kind of cool. That would be. I'd love it. Even this, that's kind of nice too. Maybe that's a flying spur wing. The wing spur. How about that? It'd be kind of neat. But anyway, I went back and now a series of sketches. I switched gears again and went back into some things like maybe these are all metal, for example, or fiberglass. Again, it can be illuminated, different materials. They're very natural materials. Interesting. Just really cool. So again, but using the eagle as a base, obviously, the wing structure can be very melodic in terms of a lot of texture in the wing structure itself. This could be a very strong statement in terms of what the park represents. And then this is the flight system or the freedom that they've allowed us to experience as it goes through the process of building the shape itself. There's then some other variations on the same theme, looking at different ways of contorting some of the shapes. Just really cool stuff. Not these sketches, but just the thinking process. Again, I really can't get away from that whole process. The reason for today's stream, the visual side is great, but as you all know, Trevor T. Williams, for example, Trevor, you know full well, Chip, you know, and so does Shadow. You research the daylights out of something, then you find the spark, and away you go. So another variation on wings. Again, another variation on maybe a combination of getting into things like, for example, wings and being very patriotic, sculptural pieces, very, very literal, all the way down the line, flags, different ways of presenting that wing and the structural piece itself as a tribute sculpture. These are all, I didn't clarify that, pardon me. These are more acclimated to like a sculptural piece in the middle of the theme of the park if they're beginning to use these things. Again, another variation on theme here, coming back in and doing the following with that. That's kind of cool. And then taking that same piece, and notice that's started with that sketch. Maybe it's kind of a big span. This could be a good airborne, very abstract-looking piece of sculpture. Then I said, what if I took some of, like, for example, I took some of the feather structure out, began to lay that down as a big metal sculpture or a fiberglass piece or a carbon fiber piece that lays inside the park itself. And you walk up to it and walk around it. And inside all this might be some information, for example, on the tributes to these individuals, indigenous individuals in the area. And then let's just move along here. Then look at maybe a brow, maybe a head bonnet of some sort. You'll walk through it to get to the riverfront, looking at just variations in how to put that process together. Again, notice once again, I think there are thread lines going through this whole presentation today, and it's simply this. Just really interesting things about once you find a theme, whether it's residential, symbolic, cultural, ethereal, each one of those categories open up windows of opportunity for creating design systems. And I think that's what I've done here. When I started to look at maybe eagle or feather, I went from eagle to sculpture to maybe headband and individual to maybe symbol feathers, and to just playing through the whole process of really isolating it, and yet to isolate it, to bring it all together, or to expand it. So that's the process. These are, again, little pencil sketches about what might look like as far as scale is concerned. How to, maybe it's a ribbon you walk through, a headband of some sort, then into a concourse or an overview area here. Putting it into context here again, there's a walkthrough for this thing, and again, welcome center, walkways, very simple shapes, but nonetheless playing up on that same form there. Let's go down the line here, same process again, the parabolic curve into the actual site itself. And then again, playing up this little detail here is showing us right here what that might look like in terms of the headband, lighting, and a big long porch or a big overview across the river here to kind of look through as a feature to go into the system itself. Let's go back into here, and we move this out of the way. Pardon me, gang. Let's get these down. Let's move them out of the way. There we are. Then back to symbol again. The dream catcher symbol. I mean, there's a lot. It's really interesting how a lot of people reacted to this one. It's really interesting in a positive way. I just took the basic symbol from their culture. Began, okay, this, and this. What if we lay it down again to a little wall tribute? What if that little section begins to look? There's a section where it's a half section. This actually sweeps around. And this half section begins to show us what it's like. Then out of that come these very strong, very sculptural looking feather pieces that are going to kind of bring it all together as a part of a theme process. And then on the surface, this could be all hardscape here. And again, it's reflected here with different pavers and bricks or tiles and so forth. Again, another variation, again, looking at the same process. Maybe it's a little half wall with a cant on it. A lot of information here on the front face. And again, the feathers kind of leaning back. Entry egress into it. Hey, McCormick, how you doing there, Dustin? Good to have you on board. Thanks for taking the time to sneak in here. This is just fun stuff. Looking at variations on the theme, and I think, again, the theme for today, if I were to really put a category to it, it's very simple. Tell your story. And I thought I'd go back and look at the design process here. These are sketches that I generated for the first few days, and just putting feedback to the group that I was dealing with. I was not given any information. I was just given an assignment. Hey, we're doing this thing called a tribute theme. What do you think? So I just went at it, and this is the first of, I think, probably try to get through today about 36 of at least 400 sketches that I started the first phase at it. Then I've kind of milked it down into color, then some theme work here. So if time permits and you enjoy this, maybe I'll pick it up again with maybe a couple of days time here. I'd like to maybe pass on some more information tomorrow if we kind of get at it here. Let's go this way. There it is there. Let's kind of get that in place. Now change gears again into like a reflecting pool. Into these very tall pillars, these tablets, and begin to tell the story about these individuals and what they went through. A little plan view study of what it might look like, residential, or probably guest house and so forth of some sort, or a welcome center, and the tribute itself, park overview, and just very simple little very quiet, silent area, for example, historical pieces that tell the story of these individuals. So let's go back here. Back again, a little change of pace, more traditional approach, and just maybe little details within the park itself, wall structure, little feathers, and again, a combination of it like an OG curve and then some sort of a tribute in the center of that. So they can see these. This is where I started to pick up on certain things, like maybe kind of slowing down a little bit and then kind of zooming into a theme of some sort to kind of put it all together. You open up, you notice how it's a very good process of thinking, I think, that I really like to utilize when I go through a creative process. First of all, you expand it, then you constrict it. Then you begin to expand it again, and because of the constriction, you see certain things, and you expand it again. So you diversify, and then clarify. Diversify, then clarify. And I think that's the thing that's great about this whole process here. You see it too. Yeah, interesting. Underground missiles. Yeah, that's true. That's just for Chip. I think we do a sketch here, Chip, where these two things right here, right behind on the ground surface, there's a whole series of canisters. At night, these things just kind of launch as they go. So that could be kind of neat, right? Okay, so those will be your missile silos. But nonetheless, again, variations on theme here. There we are. Let's get these guys out of the way. Again, very simple sketch. Maybe it's a large placard of some sort with, again, feathered discs in the corners. Again, same process. Switching gears, I mean, much more centralized. Let's see. There we go. Stealth missiles. Yeah. A much more centralized theme here in terms of maybe some overview placards, then a very, very large prominent piece on the riverfront. Then again, that might look like that. So let's kind of move along here as we go here. See, there's another one. Very simplistic. Switch gears again, more and more of a traditional look here. Canted walls, same storyline. Same theme again, getting a little more specific with some of the very simplified sketches in terms of putting together pieces and parts, lighting, tribute, and then each tribe might have its own certain chevron that you could get in place in the park, and it would look like this in certain areas. So we go that route. Let's go another here. Go back to the dwelling place again, where you go back to these Hogans. Again, going back to some of these. Notice we're going back to some of the earlier themes we did, for example, the housing area, the Hogans, and tenting systems, or teepees, and injecting both the residential and these very, very colorful, very simplistic looking tablets that tell the story again of the culture of the information. Same process here, and a little detail when you walk through it that might look like that. And again, another variation I think with just a lean-to, and again, information is underneath there for gathering research and telling the story. Back again, some more tribute, like some thumbnail sketches on location of tributes. Real tiny little thumbnail sketch of the whole site plan laying in, for example, where the tribute, this piece might lay in here. entry and egress, walking paths, sculptural areas, gift shops. Again, a great big huge walking promenade over the river. Let me stop there for a second there, folks. Am I jawboning too much, or is this helping? You see the vision here we're trying to get across, or the whole destination for today's stream? And that is the whole idea of being able to really focus in on telling that story. There's a lot of stuff here, a lot of concept work, but nonetheless, it all has one simple message: to inspire others and to let them see that you're concerned and committed to being their partner, and to do a great job with it. Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate it there, Chip. So here we go. By 7, let's go down the line here. Some elevation studies, a little bit of plan view again, looking at the same process. Lighting, for example, welcome center, walkways. Let's go down the line here. And again, back to a little more detail. This was interesting. This one I started to pick up on the fact that in this area, there's a tribute or a trifecta of rivers coming together. There's a little bit of a Y, and the river actually forks and goes around this island. So I thought, let's take a look at that as maybe this is where the central area is here. You come in, you enter, and then the river is all, maybe this is all like paved in certain colors and maybe tinted concrete, so it looks like it's water, but it's not. But again, it picks up that same confluence where that river splits, and doing certain things like plantings and benches and putting things around the area here. Same thing here, same process, getting that same split in the river and let that become a very, very strong dominant piece going through the entire park site to work with. So the confluence, again, became part of the theme. Isn't it funny how you've got things that are both cultural within the piece of the indigenous individuals, all the symbols and what they represent, but the area that it might be built in has a feature in it that could kind of take on a design theme. And that's what's great about the whole process of being creative. So there we are. And here's another one. Again, looking at the same process. Here's that elaboration of that whole idea of this confluence. This would be a lot of fun, I think, to work with. Again, overview, confluence, and then here, notice this is all I don't want to say it's actually liquid or water, but it has a feel about it. Maybe it's tinted in such a fashion that it looks like that. And again, there are little bridges. Notice what I really did here is I built a bridge into this whole walkway, this confluence, the bridges of time, past into the future, etc. Those are the thinking behind the whole process here. Now, a little bit of a plan view. Instead of being so literal with it, maybe just these are very floating palettes or rectangular forms that take you through the entire confluence. And maybe you tint this. Notice they're all at certain different, real subtle elevations. But at the same time, you can actually take that thing and actually tint them, then create that confluence of that river going right through it. So there's another approach to the thinking process. And again, folks, I hope I'm not belaboring the point here, but I'm a huge fan of drawing. To me, great drawing is a product of great thinking. And the more you think about certain things, the greater the drawing is going to be. You just can't, it's not haphazardous. You can't just be random with it. You have a specific battle plan. There are laws, absolute laws in creativity. There are laws in perspective. There are laws in color. There are laws in shape and form and light. There's all these laws. There are all these governments you have to deal with out there. But if you honor those governments, good God, look what you can do. It's amazing. So on each one of these pieces that you see here, hopefully honor that whole process. That I'm really honoring the laws of certain things like color, tone, sketch, perspective, on and on it goes. So let's move along here. Thank you. These are confluence themes now. Another series of variations on, okay, now notice how the sketches are getting a lot more organic, a lot more fluid. And I think that's fun to go through because I think now, again, that confluence opened that up. Instead of being so rigid with it and so very traditional with it, I said, well, why don't we try something that's a little more organic, a little more fluid, a little more sculptural, and maybe it has contour change, and it shall have that. Let's try that. So again, notice the contour changes. Higher ground, drop into a parabolic envelope, into flat ground, into elevation changes again. Same confluence, but again, changes the entire character of the form itself, the actual shapes. So there we are. And we go through here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah, there we are. Again, a little more elaboration. This is fun too. Taking advantage, again, notice what's of interest here is all of a sudden the trees are, the foliage is kind of masquerading certain things, but at the same time, there's a real strong semblance of gift shop, walkway, tribute area, hardscape, and into a tribute sculpture. It might be feathers of some sort, whatever they come up with. And then all of a sudden, this begins to bring up that confluence, by a little very subtle, very confluence look to it. And this would be a detail, for example, of going in the notice. This could be all a series of pavers into here, but it could be done like tinted concrete blue. It look like a river of some sort, or a water source. Some stepping stones to get across it, some lighting in through here, some sculptural pieces in the area, and again, a concrete pathway that goes through it, and then back into neutral tiles again. This is more of a detail of how these things might look once you begin to get into the focus of it. Notice, and the method there is simple. You can go to the big picture, you can see the larger vision. What's the overall concept going to do? What does it look like? What's its presence? What's its personality? But once you have a certain vision about it, now break it down into details. What's it made of? How are you going to build it? What's it going to look like? So that's what these really concentrate on. Let's go back to see. Over into this one. Again, notice much more fluid, very stretchy. Really, this is almost all hardscape now. A little bit of softscape. Now this could all change, obviously, and then some of the dotted areas like florals and plantings and the like. But again, notice the sketches now get a lot more romantic. Now, then there's reason for that. I think when I started the process, it was a very traditional. I kept it within a certain series of envelopes. Certain do's and don'ts. Then as the more it progressed, the more we begin to see themes open up, the more we begin to take advantage or see certain things open up from the point of view of, hey, this could be applicable. All of a sudden it got much more adventurous, much more romantic, far more sculptural. And I think you're starting to see some of the sketches near the end here that take on that same flavor, much more organic. And I think, to me, from my point of view, I think it's a lot more intriguing because it takes it away from being a, quote, typical park, hard state, a walkway, very linear. I'm all about, and I'll say this too, and I hope I can say this correctly, but these sketches began to take on a bit of a, from my background, automotive training, with a lot more form and shape going into it, a lot more sculptural pieces, a little less static. And I'm not embarrassed to tell you that. I think when I work with people, especially outside the discipline of transportation design, they look at me like, wow, these look like cars. So, oh, really? That's interesting. I would have never thought that. And they know nothing of my background. But I really bring that into play here. When it's applicable, bring it in, utilize it, learn from it, and then begin to apply that as you go. So last but not least, let's go down the line here. What do we have here? The last but not last sketch. Okay, look how sculptural this guy gets. I mean, it just starts to really open up certain things. It's just, boy, all these sketches we talked about here today, yeah, they build a theme or an anthem, but you're building into a crescendo. All of a sudden, look how sculptural this thing is. It takes it away from being a, quote, just a park. It's now it makes a statement. It's got a presence about it. I mean, there's certain form in it. There's a certain envelope in it. There's certain seating and envelope contour changes, seating areas, tribute areas, landscapes and softscapes, parking areas, and a lot more. Again, notice it. Look at the contour change. High ground into low ground. Drop off, slope, and back up the high ground again. And again, section the same way across, and the horizontal is doing the same thing as opposed to the vertical. Much more sculptural than taking the same theme here. Again, same thing. Tribute coming through it. A little more sculptural, and not as dramatic as this. But again, chances are being taken here. So I just want to stop there for a moment here and let you all know that I really appreciate the fact that you were with me here today. And I hope this has given you some insight as to what it takes, for example, and I'm going to say this very carefully, what it takes. Oh, let me move along here very quickly here, get these guys organized. What it takes to begin to tell a story. And I think this has been a part of it. So I hope this has been of some value to you, and I know it has been for me. I mean, I go through these sketches, I go back and review them, and it's amazing to me what I begin to learn in terms of going back and it's, oh, gee, I'd like to do this, and maybe I'll try that. So I'm waiting now just to see what the process is, and again, your feedback on whether this is something you'd like to see me do more of. I have a ton of projects I can go through with this, some Corvette stuff, automotive, some product and architectural stuff. I've taken the same approach working with Shadow, for example, and some of the Star Citizen stuff, some of the work we've done together. It's the same thing. We do research work. We get a theme down, and if you want to see more of that work, please let me know. And I can't stress enough how much I appreciate having you guys on board. Those of you who've taken the time to be with me today, really, really appreciate it. Very valuable for me to be a part of that resource, and for you to spend your time with me is grateful. I'm very grateful. So let me just stop it right there and begin to tell you that, maybe we'll pick it up tomorrow and do maybe phase 2. I've got about another, God knows, big stack over there I can kind of pull from. Maybe I'll carry this on and take a little further tomorrow for you so you can see chapter 2 in the story. And again, in closing here today, I started my stream by saying I really regretted missing going yesterday. I just could not not do it. My back was just, I couldn't even bend, but I just wanted to travel through. I just really, I was stacked over there. I got 5 more trees standing. Very good. I just really think it's interesting how it's interesting how little by little it got better, and today I'm going to give it a run. I hate to lose time here when I'm working with you guys, and again, so grateful for the fact you took the time to join me today. And join me tomorrow about 2:30. I might just pick the story up and maybe do a little more interactive stuff. Here's a sketch. It started like this. Here's the theme when we started. It looked like this. Be a little more interactive with it. I just want to slow down today and give you some insight into the story. So thank you again. Any questions, any comments in closing here from the gang here? Shadow, McCormick, anybody, Justin, and Trevor, if you're still around, any comment at all, please feel free to just give me a little bit of insight before we wrap it up here. Anybody? I'll just take a moment here and regroup. This is phase 1. There we are. That's how we started, right there. Yeah, I'm good. That's great. Super. Hey, that's good. Thanks very much, guys. And again, it's been a real treat for me to be a part of the process here today. And we'll be 1,000% tomorrow. Looking really going back at it, making a meeting in the whole time. But, no. I hope the meeting went well. I didn't want to cause a distraction there, Shadow. So thanks for doing so. And then closing it, and I just want to pass along. If you have any information that you'd like to have me work on or see certain things being done, anybody, please pass the word along to your friends. I'm here 3 days a week, and I'd love to be a part of the. If you want to add, I want to add to my story, my followership. I really want to build on that. And please visit my website at drcontrast.com. Some drawing programs are there to work with. And also send me a note at jim@drcontrast.com if you have any information or things you'd like to see me do. And again, above all else, again, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to be back on board. I'm really, to me, it's fun to be a part of the process. Love to go on film. It's a great medium, very interactive. I didn't do any drawing today. I just thought I'd tell a story, and I hope it had a great series of chapters in it that you could glean from, begin to apply in your own career. So thank you so much for the time. I wish all of you a great day, all the very best. And I always close off with this because I think it's the most important part of the whole stream. It simply comes down to this. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. There's no doubt you are. Really appreciate that, gang. Thank you. Take care of yourself. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:30. Take care.